Your attention, please. One show for you to see. One for you and everyone.
Hey, Buster, don't look now, but that earthling you're with is really an alien in disguise.
Don't take my squash away from me.
Let's roll.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I'm your host, Lou Mongello, and thank you for tuning in once again. This is show number 37 for the week of October 21st, 2007. This week's show is going to begin, as always, with a lot of news from around Walt Disney World before we head on over to the Walt Disney World rumor mill, where there's a lot of very interesting and major rumors to discuss, including updates on Spaceship Earth, Space Mountain, Imagination, the FastPass system, 2 Future World pavilions, and rumored new attractions based on The Little Mermaid and Cars. We take another trip aboard my Walt Disney World Wayback Machine, as Jeff and I explore another extinct attraction from the Magic Kingdom. This week, it's all about flying, because we explore the history, trivia, and complete journey aboard If You Had Wings. We'll also look at its replacements, including Delta's Dream Flight and more. It's a lot of fun, and will likely bring back some old memories. The next Walt Disney World Half Marathon Challenge contest starts this week, and the questions and clues are brought to you by Jonathan Dichter, who asks you to identify the voices behind the magic. In addition to being able to win some great prizes, remember that this contest is to help raise money for the DisneyWorldTrivia.com Dream Team project to help benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. As part of my continuing efforts to help you with your vacation planning, I'll show you how you can save money on tickets to Walt Disney World, as I pose many of your frequently asked questions to an official and authorized Walt Disney World discount ticket provider. I'll have time for just a few of your emails before I play some of your voicemails at the end of the show, so as always, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. In this week's news from Walt Disney World, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection recently welcomed the contemporary Old Key West and Saratoga Springs resorts to the Florida Green Lodging Program. These are the 34th through 36th to be designated in the Green Lodging Program, which is a voluntary state initiative that provides the lodging industry with technical assistance, encouraging hotels and motels to adopt cost-saving green practices that reduce waste and conserve natural resources. From the very beginning, Walt Disney World has always been concerned with the environment, so it's great to see that continuing as 3 more of their resorts receive this important designation. Super Soap Weekend is returning to the Disney MGM Studios. The View's new co-host, Sherry Shepard, is going to join Susan Lucci from All My Children and more than 30 other ABC daytime stars for the 12th annual event from November 10th through the 11th over at Disney's MGM Studios. Other event activities include celebrity motorcades, autograph sessions, talk shows, interviews, as well as the chance to purchase one-of-a-kind memorabilia from each of the shows. The Colgate Total Street Jam is going to close the event every day with live musical performances by your favorite daytime stars. Throughout the weekend, fans are also going to have the chance to meet favorite stars from All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, and General Hospital Night Shift in autograph sessions. For updates and more information about ABC's Super Soap Weekend, you can call the Super Soap hotline at 407-397-6808 or check online at abcdaytime.com. Downtown Disney is becoming the home once again for more than 150 artists to display their original creations during the 32nd annual Festival of the Masters, presented by Sharpie from November 9th through the 11th at Walt Disney World. Sculpture, jewelry, painting, photography, glass, and digital art are going to be just some of the genres showcased at the Judged Art Show, which is annually ranked among the country's best outdoor art festivals. The Fine Arts Awards ceremony is going to take place Saturday at 3 p.m. on the stage near the Virgin Megastore. This year's event will also feature street painters from the Central Florida Chalk Artists Association, as well as live music, face painting, and interactive zones for kids. The 9th annual Where the Art Meets the Soul Folk Art Festival is going to be over at the House of Blues at downtown Disney's West Side. The festival goes every day from 9:30 to 5:30, and admission is free. For more information about the Festival of the Masters, you can go to disneyworld.com/artfestival or call 407-824-4321. And of course, I'll put these links up in the show notes as well. Speaking of art, if you're a fan of Walt Disney World and the works of the world-renowned painter of light, Thomas Kinkade, he has created a new work of art commissioned by Walt Disney World entitled A New Day at Cinderella Castle, featuring his signature luminous lighting on Walt Disney World's park icon. It's the first Kinkade painting to feature the castle and is available at the Art of Disney locations throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. And while that might make a great Christmas gift, what could be more exciting than opening presents on Christmas morning? Well, what about this? What if you got a call from Mickey Mouse announcing the ultimate gift, which is a 2008 Walt Disney World vacation? Between November 23rd and December 23rd, if you book a select vacation to Walt Disney World, you can sign up to receive a very special call from Mickey Mouse on Christmas Day and surprise your family with the great news. Vacation rates during this time, including theme park tickets, start as low as $58 per person per day. For more information, you can contact Walt Disney World by going to disneyworld.com or by contacting your travel agent. And while you're there, you want to go off-road at Walt Disney World? You want to go off-road on a Segway? Well, now you can, as there's a new off-road Segway experience over at the Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground, taking you along backwoods trails aboard the Segway X2 personal transporter. These Segways are specially outfitted with deeply treaded tires as well as higher ground clearance than the other Segway models to give you a smooth and very stable ride through the trails. The 2-hour Wilderness Back Trail Adventure starts with a training session, which is about the X2. It's offered twice a day on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays for $85, and you must be 16 years of age or older in order to participate. Reservations can be made up to 90 days in advance by calling 407-WDW-TOUR. And if you are going to Walt Disney World during the holidays, and Mickey does give you that call letting you know, there are 2 special events, as always, that are going to be taking place. The first is the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights, which is presented by Sylvania. That's going to light up the Streets of America backlot over at the Disney MGM Studios from November 12th through January 6th, 2008. You can also catch the Hollywood Holiday Parade and see your favorite Disney characters dressed in their holiday best. And during the holidays, don't forget about what's going on over at Disney's Animal Kingdom, where you can celebrate safari style with Mickey, Minnie, and their pals in the Mickey's Jingle Jungle Parade. That's also from November 12th through January 6th, 2008. Also this year over at Camp Mini Mickey, guests can meet Disney characters dressed for the holidays as well as enjoy carolers singing traditional holiday songs over at Santa Goofy's Holiday Village. If you have any news you want to share, you can always email me at lou@wdwradio.com. You can also discuss anything you've heard in this section at the forums over at disneyworldtrivia.com. There's a lot of great information coming out of the Walt Disney World rumor mill this week. First, over in Epcot, the rumored rehab of the second floor of the Imagination Pavilion is possibly nothing more than just a rumor. It was originally rumored that the old Imageworks was being torn down and it was going to be replaced by something else. It was used last year for the test for the Kim Possible Adventure, but currently there appears to be no plans on the table to do anything as was originally rumored. Staying in Epcot, from what I'm hearing, the Spaceship Earth rehab with the rumored interactive portion will not be like what you had over in Horizons, where you could choose your own adventure at the end of the ride. This interactivity, from what I'm told, is being quote-unquote different from what you had in Horizon. Currently, I'm also hearing that the refurb is 1 month behind schedule. Now again, that confirms rumors that I've heard in the past, although that very well may change. It not necessarily delay the opening, because they may be able to catch up as they get closer to the speculated opening after the refurb. And speaking of other rumored refurbishments, we've talked at length about the rumored Space Mountain refurbishment, as well as had some sort of confirmation from Imagineer George McGinnis, who talked about that during our interview a couple of months ago. What I'm understanding now is that the planned rehab will take place next year, but it will not be as extensive as what took place over in Disneyland. According to the Magic Kingdom management, they don't want the attraction down for as long of a period of time as was originally rumored, which could be up to a year or so. What I'm understanding now is that we might get something along the lines of a Haunted Mansion type refurb, where we'll get new lighting, new effects, some things in the queue as well as in the load-unload area. I have heard rumors of dates that range from June 2008 to April or May of 2009, but I really don't know if it's going to be down for that long based on the recent information that I've received. We've talked in the past about the use of handheld electronic devices in the parks to play interactive games with the environment and attractions. I was never really a big proponent of this, as I didn't really want to see children especially walking around staring at the screens instead of enjoying all that Walt Disney World has to offer. However, I'm excited about something else that I'm hearing that may be coming out from Imagineering, because they are supposedly proceeding with the development, research, and testing of a new Nintendo DS cartridge that's going to utilize Wi-Fi and also give you an interactive map of the parks. It's going to let you plot your directions to the different destinations, possibly update the wait times automatically for all the different attractions. There are no rollout dates for testing this currently planned, but obviously as I hear more, I will cover this on the show. And here's some big news that I heard about the recent FastPass patents and rumors about hierarchical structures and different types of method for obtaining FastPasses in the parks. For example, some of the rumors is that the type of FastPass that you get may be linked to what resort you're staying at, or how much you're spending, or a variety of different factors that might play into what will really amount to be a hierarchical system, giving some people preferred FastPasses over others. From what I am being told, the patents that Disney filed were for legal protection of the concepts and ideas and some of the technologies only, and are not being planned to be rolled out anytime in the near future in Walt Disney World or any of the other theme parks. What I do understand is that Disney obviously pays attention to what goes on, what guest reaction or response is, even if it's not at the parks, but I'm talking about online as well. Disney does not want to do some sort of implementation like this that might create this type of a system and something that guests might not enjoy until they really work something out that they may want to try out instead. So for now, the patents themselves are only for protection and not for any sort of immediate plans for rolling out in the parks. Now, based on that information, I would expect the FastPass system not to change in the future. However, we may see some sort of testing of different systems. Obviously, there's a new barcode system that's recently been implemented, so we may see some testing of some new things, but not what's been rumored previously about this hierarchical system. The last part of our rumor mill discussion this week is not necessarily related to Walt Disney World, but with Disney announcing that they're putting more than $1 billion into Disney's California Adventure, including things like Cars Land and a Little Mermaid attraction, Playhouse Disney, Toy Story Mania, and really changing the entire look and makeup of the park to almost reflect the look and feel of Disney's Hollywood Studios with that old-time Hollywood. Rumors are really starting to swirl about what may or may not be coming to Walt Disney World, especially in light of recent rumors about other Pixar attractions and the removal and demolition of the backlot tour, etc. So what I wanted to do is bring in Jeff Pepper to comment on some of these rumors as we talk about them, because Jeff has posted some interesting things over in his blog, and I wanted to just get his opinion on some of the things we're going to talk about.
Hey Lou, how's it going?
Good. And Jeff, let's talk specifically about some of the things that are coming to Disney's California Adventure and how they tie into Walt Disney World. And one of the big things is Cars Land, which is coming to California Adventure. There's going to be a number of character-themed attractions. I think it's going to be on a 12-acre site. I mean, so you're not talking about a small parcel of land. There's going to be Radiator Springs Racers. There's going to be, like your post said, something from Luigi's Tire Store. And there's been a lot of rumors about either a Cars-themed attraction coming to Orlando or the Tomorrowland Indy Speedway being rethemed for Cars, possibly with the rumors of the demolition of the backlot tour, something like that coming to that area. What do you think about Cars Land, specifically in Walt Disney World?
Yeah, it's what really is one of the things that really sent everybody to talking this past week. I mean, Disney announced this earlier last week, and it was a big announcement, very big announcement. It was basically just this whole retheming kind of California Adventure, to the point where there's even scuttlebutt that they might change the name. And Cars Land was one of the big focal points. And the interesting thing about it is Cars Land, the way it's going to be conceptualized, the way it's being conceptualized for California Adventure, ties very distinctly into their California theme. They're going for the whole Route 66 kind of theming, tying into the Radiator Springs setting of the movie. So it is distinctly themed to California Adventure. And I kind of put some feelers out to some folks to say, just really, do you think there is a chance that this would be transplanted to, like you said, logically, Disney MGM Studios seems to be the logical place for it, because we've been hearing so much about Pixar Place and the Pixar expansion in the studios, and how it's going to expand beyond just Toy Story Mania. And Toy Story Mania, again, being something that's also going into California Adventure. So that's where all the speculation ran. A couple of the people I talked to, seem to think that though they're not going to want to do an exact clone of Cars Land per se. So the very specific attractions you mentioned, the one being Radiator Springs Racers, very interesting, because the concept art on that, saw couple of different pieces of concept art on it, looks very much kind of modeled on the test track technology. It's going to be high speed, and even the vehicles bear some degree of resemblance in the artwork to the test track vehicles. I think they have similar six-seaters. Just the design seems very rooted in that, so that'll be kind of curious to see how it pans out. But yeah, it's kind of interesting where it's going to go, because Cars is such a huge property now for Disney. It's like their number one breadwinner right now in consumer products. It's consumer products, merchandising has made more money than the actual movie itself. So there has to be some presence down the line in Walt Disney World for this. So it just might not be exactly a duplicate of what's going to be in DCA.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because Cars has often been criticized by a number of people who say, the movie didn't do well, and it tanked, and it was awful, and it was a disappointment. However, merchandise-wise, it does so well. It's pretty well known at this point that there's probably a Cars 2 movie that's coming out in the next couple of years. I have a reliable source that tells me Cars Land, in some form or fashion, is coming to Orlando. The source wouldn't say which park is going to get what. So we start thinking about the demolition of the backlot tour, putting something in an area like that. That might necessarily be the case. What we are looking at is 2010 or later at the very least for something like that to happen. The other big rumor is obviously about The Little Mermaid, especially when the Little Mermaid Special Edition DVD came out, and there was that virtual ride-through of the attraction that Tony Baxter had conceptualized. I mean, people lost their minds because it was just such a beautiful attraction. And while that may not be what they get out in DCA, to a certain degree, I mean, that's something people are excited about. And I know, the rumors are starting to swirl. Not from me. This is not coming from me. That we're going to get it. It's going to go into Ariel's Grotto. They're going to remove Pooh's Playful Spot. That's going to be a big Little Mermaid area.
Yeah, the funny thing about the whole Little Mermaid attraction is that if you go back in time, if you go back to the early 90s, if you sift through the various stock reports, annual reports, things like that, that particular attraction was announced everywhere. I mean, it literally had incarnations at various times being announced for Paris, for Disneyland, the one, obviously for Disney World. It was just announced everywhere. So, it's kind of ironic that the one place it's now officially going into is the one park that never existed when it was initially conceptualized. So in seeing some of the concept art there are some similarities to the version that they featured on the DVD, but it's going to be certainly much more sophisticated, because that was developed well over a decade ago. And again, it's logical that it would go in the Magic Kingdom right next to Ariel's Grotto. It's a perfect fit for Fantasyland. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And again, is it a done deal? It's hard to say. One of the things we keep hearing about a lot of the DCA stuff is that they don't want to just clone attractions anymore. They want the attractions to be very, very unique to the parks they're in, and they don't want to just kind of farm out like they have in the past. So it'll be interesting on that one as well.
Well, to use just the term clone, quote-unquote, attractions are easy because the R&D has been done. It's very easy to kind of transplant them in another park. I think specifically, though, with DCA, and again, this is total speculation on my part, I don't think that we're going to see copies of attractions like Little Mermaid specifically and things like Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage, because these are going to be the draws for the quote-unquote new DCA. And Disney's belief is probably going to be, if you want to see it, if you want to experience these attractions, you need to come here, and you just stay here. You need to stay here for a long weekend, because now you've got 2 full-blown parks to spend time in, to spend money in, and to play in. And if we give these to you in Florida, you've now lost that incentive to come out and vacation in Disneyland. And getting the Florida people to California, I think has always been kind of a tough sell. Now with attractions like these, things people really want to see, that might be enough to put people like myself, over the top and say, I need to go out and see these things.
And I think that's dead on. And I think the irony is that what we've been talking about also is that what you mentioned a few minutes ago was that in regard to that kind of exclusivity, there is also a very distinct borrowing of theming from Disney's Hollywood Studios. So much of things that were conceptualized that weren't so much, over the top, headliner attractions, but just actually the actual theming that they're going to shift California Adventure to focuses a lot on their entranceway and on kind of what would be the equivalent of their Main Street area, which they really haven't given a name to, a la Hollywood Boulevard and the studios. But this is going very much distinctly to be themed along 1920s Southern California, Hollywood, as it appeared when Walt arrived there in the mid-1920s. And so much to the point where they're even doing a reimagining of the partner statue that features Walt and Mickey side by side along the lines of the partner statue, but a very much younger Walt carrying a suitcase, kind of, I think he's got a movie camera over his shoulder kind of a thing. So they're really playing to that. And the interesting thing is that there's a weenie. They're putting a weenie in, and that weenie is the Carthay Theater. That's the theater in Hollywood that premiered Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And the interesting thing there is that's represented on Sunset Boulevard in the Hollywood Studios. That's down going towards Tower of Terror. And so they're borrowing that. They're also a big feature of this area is going to be the red car lines, which were famous within Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and there's reference to those also on Hollywood Boulevard. There's a kind of a warehouse garage kind of facade building there that has actually a red line emblem on it. So much of it's going to be very, very similar in theming in that regard. So it's kind of interesting that, on one hand we're saying that they want it to be very distinct, but they are borrowing some from Disney World.
Well, while to a certain degree it is going to be kind of Hollywood Studios West, which is kind of the look and feel they're going for, while we have in Florida the Hollywood that never was, they're going for the Hollywood that really was around Walt's time. So it'll be interesting to see as time goes on what other rumors come out as to what attractions may be transplanted or reproduced from the new DCA over to Walt Disney World in either the Magic Kingdom or Disney's Hollywood Studios. So, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on, chatting with me a little bit about this. As always, if you have any rumors that you want to share, you can send them via email to lou@wdwradio.com. If you want to call in any rumors or comment on anything that we discussed, you can call the voicemail at 206-202-4WDW. That's 206-202-4939, or discuss them over at the forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com.
Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 72, your Fiesta flight to Mexico and the ancient pyramids, now departing at Gate 19. Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, your holiday cruise to the emerald beauty of a Puerto Rican rainforest, now ready for departure.
It's time for another trip aboard my Walt Disney World Wayback Machine, and I want to welcome, as always, of course, Jeff Pepper from 2719 Hyperion.
Hey, Lou. How you doing?
Good, good. This is one, Jeff, that I think it's safe to say you and I have both been looking forward to. And this week's Wayback Machine may really have been fueled by some of our recent sense of nostalgia with Epcot's 25th anniversary. But we wanted to really take a look at what I think is arguably one of our favorite attractions, certainly one of our favorite extinct attractions. I know for my parents, it was one of their favorite attractions because when Disney used to use a coupon-based system of getting on rides, it was free. So they liked it for those reasons as well. And of course, I'm sure you can guess, Jeff, that we're talking about If You Had Wings.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one because it's, for all the folks out there who are of our generation or our parents' generation, it is very distinct in its place in Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. And for the folks who never remembered it or were too young to go back that far, I think they'll get a kick out of a lot of the things we talk about and how they have very distinct connections all the way up into the Walt Disney World of today. This was a very, very unique attraction, and there's a lot to talk about, so we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, let's start kind of before the attraction opened and talk about kind of how it came to be, because it really came about not because of a concept for an attraction first, but because of a sponsor. And when Disney World was being constructed, Eastern Airlines signed on as a sponsor for Disney World for reportedly somewhere around $10 million. And as part of that deal and making the Eastern the official airline, which was a great tie-in because they had about 60 flights daily coming down to Orlando from all parts of the United States. They were very big on the East Coast. Disney now had to create an attraction for them. And what Eastern wanted really was for Disney to promote or allow in some way for an attraction to promote some of the more exotic places that they could take people. Not just Orlando, but places like Mexico and the Caribbean, exotic New Orleans, it ended up being as well. But it really was meant to be as a showcase for Eastern Airlines.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of a cart before the horse scenario. It was one of the very, very, if only times that Disney really almost created a commercial for the sponsor. It's as you said, it started in development that way, as opposed to here's an attraction, we need to go find a sponsor that kind of relates to it. So, yeah, it was very interesting because also it was in a spot. It went into Tomorrowland and in a way where it didn't necessarily relate to the Tomorrowland theme. Not that, as you've said in the past, many of the attractions that have ended up in Tomorrowland aren't specifically related, but this was very distinctly, certainly not futuristic in its theme or tone.
Yeah, they basically had to shoehorn this attraction into the east side of the existing Circle Vision 360 Theater. For those of you maybe who might not be familiar with where that is, today it's where the Monsters, Inc. laugh floor is. There was this show building attached to the side of it with about 28,000 square feet, and that's all they had. They couldn't even build any farther back or up or any other direction. That's all they had to do. And one of the guys principally responsible for creating the attraction is Disney legend Claude Coates.
Yeah, Coates was so involved on this on so many levels. He was an expert show designer. He was so talented, and he was very much involved in spatial concepts and spatial designs, and that's why he was very key on this, because you said they were dealing with a very limited amount of space, so they had to get as much bang for their buck as possible. And one of the concepts they decided to basically land on for this was a relatively new concept, and that's the Omnimover system, the Omnimover technology, which had basically come out of Disneyland, out of the Disneyland attraction Adventures in Inner Space, and also was in the process of being in the mid to late 60s, in place for the Haunted Mansion. And that is basically where they started the concept. But Claude Coates' involvement even extended beyond that, and it basically came up with this very, very original theme design of projection movies combined with a static environment to kind of create the environment.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we should, when we start talking about the ride, but we could mention it here. One very unique thing that I think maybe a lot of people might not realize about this attraction was there was no audio animatronics at all. It was all done through projection and some static props, and that's it. And you playing it back kind of in your mind's eye, you almost don't even realize it because of how well it was done.
And it's interesting is that one of the things that I remember when it's funny you're talking about your parents, and I very distinctly remember my parents loving this attraction as well. I think it was my mom's favorite attraction, and it was very interesting that it touched kind of their generation. You know, we were all about the Haunted Mansion and the audio animatronics and going underwater in 20,000 Leagues, and this particular attraction had a simplicity to it. At the same time, very complex in its design and development, but it had a simplicity to it compared to so many of the other attractions in the Magic Kingdom at the time. I think it really appealed to the older folks on that level.
Right. Well, you know, it wasn't scary. It wasn't fast. It was very relaxing. It was a nice break, you know, for a lot of people from the heat. They can go in. There was usually no line because of the Omnimover system. No matter how busy the parks were, you were always able to kind of get right back on if you had wings because of the type of ride it was.
Yeah, which you mentioned earlier was so dead on, and you and I both talked about this together. We were comparing sort of our mental histories, and that's a dangerous thing for us to do. but what we both said is what makes this very memorable, we think, on a lot of levels to people that were there, is that when you're talking about the 1970s, you're talking about the ticket system. You did not really have the, you know, one thief, you know, ride all day kind of system set up. So you were still working off of your ticket books. And basically when you went for a day, you were rationing your tickets. You know, you were probably only going to be able to ride Haunted Mansion once or Small World once or 20,000 League once. But because, as you said, this was sponsored by Eastern, it was a free attraction, it was such that you could ride it multiple times a day without using up any tickets. And that combined with the line moving very fast, you rode it. I mean, I remember riding it 3 and 4 times a day just because I loved it and because it was something you could ride 3 or 4 times when you were there.
Yeah, and I liked it. I mean, as a kid, I really, really liked this ride, and we'll talk about its changes through the years and how I was kind of disappointed, as I think many people were, through the changes. But the other thing we should mention, too, was this was not an opening day attraction. Remember, when Tomorrowland opened back in October of 1971, there was not very much going on there. I mean, there were very few attractions that were open, save for the Skyway and the Grand Prix Raceway. This didn't open until June of 1972. That's when it opened to the public. It actually was formally dedicated on July 2nd, with Eastern Airlines and Disney kind of formally unveiling it at that point. But before, Jeff, we get inside the ride, I want to just mention briefly outside, because back in the early 70s, before the new Tomorrowland, Tomorrow was a very kind of a stark, sterile kind of thing. There was, instead of the rock formation that you have on the Avenue of the Planets, you had these 2 giant white pylons. And in front of If You Had Wings, you had a similar kind of very thin, tall white pylon as the identifying sign that had the Eastern logo and just the words If You Had Wings. And that really was, you know, basically the exterior. There was a couple of angular walls that had some kind of dimensional letters on it that said, you know, Eastern Airlines, If You Had Wings. But that really was about it. I mean, there was no kind of fancy facade.
Yeah, Tomorrowland back then was very much about minimalism. Very white. We wouldn't be able to do our DSIs. We would have 5-minute DSIs if we were doing that. So.
You know that everybody's yelling at their iPods going, there's no way Lou and Jeff can do anything in 5 minutes. But
isn't that an interesting font on the If You Had Wings sign?
Yeah.
Yes, it is, Jeff. Isn't that very good? Yeah.
You know, the story behind that font goes back to... but the other thing that's notable about the exterior of If You Had Wings was not the entrance itself, but what was above the show building, because the If You Had Wings section of that building actually had a Wedway People Mover track installed above it. And this is 3 years before the People Mover opened in July of 75. And if you kind of go online and look at some of these old pictures and old videos of the entrance to If You Had Wings, you could see the railings for the Wedway People Mover that, like I said, wouldn't be installed for almost 3 years later.
And we'll get to that too. Is that the People Mover and If You Had Wings did share a very kind of interesting symbiotic relationship. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too notable about the outside was that they had a greeter. They had usually a female cast member stationed outside, just kind of greeting guests as they walked in. I remember one of the things I fondly remember was getting the little pilot's wings. And that's, she was usually the person, she or he would usually be the person that gave you the little kind of airline pilot wings to kids.
Nothing commercial about that.
Not at all. But once you got inside, again, this was one of those memorable cues, and we'll talk about, again, that sort of relationship to Adventure Through Inner Space. It was really meant to represent a modern airport terminal, and it had just kind of very stark white walls. It had blue carpeting, and you got, like on all Omnimover attractions, you got onto the speed ramp to get into one of your blue Omnimover vehicles. It was about 102 of them on the line. But how you actually entered the attraction is probably the thing that people remember most.
Let's actually back up 1 second, because let's give everybody kind of a little bit of perspective in that. Okay, we haven't really, said this, and it's probably worth saying, although most people realize it. This attraction is essentially where Buzz Lightyear is now, or was where Buzz Lightyear is now. It basically uses the same ride track, the same Omnimover system, and the same queue area. But the interesting thing is, when you were just talking about the queue area changed very dramatically later on, and we'll talk about that with when we talk about Buzz Lightyear and we talk about Dreamflight, which came after it. But it's very different because it was a very open, very high-ceilinged environment, and you can't get the sense of that now, even though the queue area for Buzz Lightyear is in the same place. And if you see any pictures of the queue area, it's very open, and it's just very, very dramatically different than the way it is now. But as we go through all of this, it's interesting is that when you ride Buzz Lightyear, you walk onto Buzz Lightyear, you can kind of go back in time and kind of imagine this, because you're kind of walking the area the same way, and you're actually boarding the ride in the same way, and you're riding the same essential track layout, and going through the same rooms. So
But I mean, completely opposite of what you had with You Have Wings. Buzz Lightyear is obviously very dark, like you said, very low ceilings. This was very wide open, very, very bright. There was a lot of external light that came into the queue area that really kind of made it very bright too. So complete, polar opposite from what you had back then.
And then, actually, and you and I just talked about this as well, is there are some very, very strong parallels to it and to Adventures in Inner Space at Disneyland. If you look and compare those two queue areas and kind of the entrance and sort of just the dynamic of how you rode the Omnimovers into the ride, very, very strong similarities in the setup. And again, very open queue area that they had out there in Disneyland.
The thing that I loved so much and I always thought was so cool was when you entered kind of the show building and started the attraction, you enter through this giant globe that was opened up. Actually, it was if you look at pictures, and I'll tell you at the end of the segment where you can find some pictures and some great resources online, you'll see that you enter the globe right below Florida in the Caribbean, one of the destinations that Eastern was trying to highlight. There was actually also a giant Eastern Airlines jet that was mounted on the side of the globe, which of course would be removed later on when they lost their sponsorship. But again, this is where you started to catch some cool things that were going on in the queue. One of the ones was the announcer talking about the arriving and departing flights, talking about the Whisper Liner service to the underwater reefs of Bermuda, and some of the other destinations that you would see later on as you went through. The one thing notable about this too, and I have never been able to find it, is that according to some old documents that I have, it says that Orson Welles was at one time the voice of the announcer. I have never been actually able to find Orson Welles narrating that part of the attraction. The only thing I could find with Orson Welles and his ties to the attraction and Eastern Airlines was
commercial, right?
That very creepy commercial, and I'll put a link up into the show notes to where you can find it. Super creepy. There's a little girl running through the forest, and she's asking if anybody knows how to get to the Magic Kingdom. And all the, there's a very bizarre-looking Mad Hatter in there, and a Peter Pan and some other people. And Orson Welles, Mr. Reassuring himself, tells her, come on, little girl, Eastern Airlines can take you to Walt Disney World. So,
And we will sell no wine before it's done.
Find your way to the airport, sister, and we'll fly you down by yourself to Walt Disney World. So, but yeah, if you haven't seen that, I'll put something up in the show notes where you can find it, because it's bizarre, to say the least. But there was also the Jeff, do you remember the big sign that had the different like an airport terminal, had the arriving and departing things, and it talked about what flights were coming in, what flights were online and delayed, and showed Caribbean.
And again, here's some interesting foreshadowing again, design foreshadowing of future attractions. Very, very distinct foreshadowing of Horizons, the future port at Horizons. And if you actually see a picture of this queue area and you see the sign that you're referring to, you could practically lift the scene right out of the Star Tours queue at Disney MGM Studios the same way when you come around the bend and ramp around and you have the entire, arrival departure sign. In Star Tours, there are just some very, very distinct parallel design elements from this. So,
yeah, and if I guess maybe back in the 70s when you look at some of these destinations, say, wow, maybe this is some place that we could go because they're talking about the pyramids of ancient Mexico and the underwater reefs of Bermuda and all different types of adventure specials. Maybe at the time when people weren't traveling as much to these kind of destinations, it was a great way to say, that this actually does look pretty cool. But one of the notable things about it, and I unashamedly admit that I love this song, If You Had Wings. If you've heard it, you know it, you can sing it, and you probably have.
It falls into that category of, small world. And it's very repetitive in its lyrics and its chorus and such, but it's just beautiful again in its simplicity as it matches your experience on the ride. It was written by Buddy Baker, and the lyrics were by Ex Atencio, who are both studio veterans, big music veterans. Atencio also did the lyrics for Grim Grinning Ghosts. These were guys that had put in a lot of hours at the studio, and they did an amazing job on this. And it's interesting because it hasn't survived. I mean, geeks like us, have basically managed to dig it up on the internet or dig up old audio files or whatever. But it's not something that lasted, like Grim Grinning Ghosts, and I guess it's more that commercial association with Eastern Airlines that sort of didn't allow it to be immortalized. But for us, yeah, it's very distinct.
Yeah, that's why you'll find things like the songs, from Take Flight on some of these CDs, as opposed to finding the original If You Had Wings, is because of that tie to Eastern Airlines. But you first hear it as you enter the Globe, and one thing I remember as a kid, and I understand now why, having done my research, the song seemed very loud. It seemed like a very, very, you could hear it really loud in the queue, you could hear it very loud in the attraction.
I know why. Go ahead.
No, please, I will not steal your thunder. I'm sure you have that highlighted in your notes, so go ahead.
Well, the thing we're going to lead into with all of this is we talked about this attraction was all about screen projections and movies intermixed with static, very detailed but still static environments. And so basically you had a whole, excuse my French, buttload of movie projectors running, and some of them were very loud. And
is that a technical term? Is buttload?
Yeah,
a technical
buttload.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Well,
is that just above a boatload?
Okay. Here, I'll go all scholarly on you. There were over 40 projectors. There, are you happy, trivia guy?
85.
40 plus equals buttload. So now anyway, they needed
this is why these segments are an hour long. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. But the whirring, or whatever. Let me do sound effects now. I'll be Jimmy McDonald. They were loud, and so that is why when you went into that initial area, because of the projection noise, they had to amp up the volume of the music to kind of cover that up. Is that correct? Do I get an A?
I'm not even going to touch the comparison between you and Jimmy McDonald because you went whir, but that's okay. I'm going to try and stick to the facts and the content because
excuse me.
Because the next scene, Jeff, is kind of your takeoff, your ascension into the air, and this is where you start seeing the first of some of the props. Again, these static props like the Aztec pyramid that would lead you into the next big scene and the first kind of destination that you'd find, which would be ancient Mexico, ancient Aztec Mexico.
But wait.
There's more. There's more.
No, you just skipped over one of the really coolest effects of the attraction, and that was as you're coming through the globe, the first thing you see, it's very dark, but the first thing you see were the animated seagulls. And the gulls were very much the icon of the attraction, even when it kind of evolved into Take Flight later on, and actually the gull did become the icon of the attraction, kind of the logo, is that you have animated sort of silhouettes of these seagulls flying through the darkness, and what they do is they morph into Eastern Airline jets.
That's right.
And it basically gives you the takeoff into the attraction. Very cool.
I'm sorry, you're the Jimmy McDonald thing totally threw me off my game. So, okay, now we're in ancient Mexico.
That's why we're a team, buddy.
And the thing I remember most, God, about the ancient Mexico scene, and again, we'll talk, how this relates to something else, were the cliff divers in Acapulco. And and I'm sure many of you know exactly where else you probably have seen these, and that is in the old El Rio del Tiempo, and still in Grand Fiesta.
Yeah, they're still there.
So, and that will be the first of a number of references to things that you'd find in El Rio, and like you said, World of Motion. But from ancient Mexico, you now go to modern Mexico, where you see the mariachi band playing the If You Had Wings song. And, again, here, almost like It's a Small World and Haunted Mansion, where the same song plays throughout the attraction. In each scene, you're getting kind of a different version of it, played by the mariachi band, played by the steel drum band. But it continues throughout the entire attraction. The other thing I noticed here when I was looking at an old video of it was the flower boat, the giant boat of flowers that you saw in El Rio and again in Grand Fiesta.
Right, yeah. And from there, we transitioned from Mexico into the Caribbean seaport. And the entry kind of prop there was essentially a cruise ship where they're basically doing the whole bon voyage thing, and the people. And again, it's very interesting because it's a very clever mixture of a static prop. I mean, you actually have the ramp going up to the ship, and right where the ramp connects with the ship, you have the projection of the people throwing their confetti and everything over the side.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel as though you're looking at a screen. You feel as though you're looking at these people in the distance at the end of it. And again, great use of the 3D static props and the projection that just works so well. And remember too, you're only going really about 2 feet per second. You're not going very fast, but these scenes, because of the attraction was relatively short, only 4.5 minutes, you only are in there for a couple of seconds. So your payoff has to come very quickly. And here's a great example of it in the first part of the scene and the second part of the scene. Okay, this really is my favorite part of the attraction, was the man who's holding the swordfish that grew and shrank while the wife takes the picture. Simple, silly. I just thought it was hysterical for some reason. Had an impact on me as a kid.
And this is where I know for a fact that there are folks out there that are going, "Oh my God, I remember that."
Right.
And it's because I had the same reaction. You're away from this for so many years, and I remember when I was doing research for this, and somebody actually had a picture of that exact scene where the swordfish keeps stretching up and down, and I actually caught a version of kind of very crude taped version of YouTube, and I went, "Oh my God!" And you're right. That is one of the most clever parts of it. And there's a few others. There's one other very distinct thing we'll get to as well.
Yeah.
That everybody's going to go, oh yeah.
Right.
And it's bringing back those kind of memories. And I know there's lots of folks out there that are probably going, oh my gosh, yeah.
Which is why we do what we do.
Right. It's our mission.
From there, you go to another scene that's somewhat reminiscent of El Rio del Tiempo, where you see the straw marketplace, and you see a projection of a couple, and they have on the backdrop, they have hats and straw pocketbooks. And again, there's the 3D props on the floor to make you feel as though you're looking into their little store.
And that, very much, like you said, that the one scene where you actually had the people in El Rio del Tiempo haggling with you as your boat eased by, very, very much derivative of that original scene in If You Had Wings.
Right. From there, you went to sort of like an underwater location where divers are on a treasure hunt, looking through like a sunken ship, looking for treasure. And from there, you get to the Caribbean. And another one of the memorable scenes is the people dancing. Remember that they're doing the limbo with the steel drum band behind them? For some reason.
Polyester City.
Yeah. From there, the next scene, really about the 10th scene in the attraction, was Puerto Rico. And again, there's that very smooth transition of the steel drums playing to another band playing. And there's a woman with maracas who is dancing, and they see in the distance the San Juan Castillo San Felipe del Morro Fort. And if that name sounds somewhat familiar, that's actually the same fort that the exterior of Pirates of the Caribbean was modeled after.
Right.
Oh, see, nice tie-in.
Nice tie, yeah. We're still in the Magic Kingdom. We didn't go too far.
That's right. Again, next scene, the Bahama scene. Again,
this is the one, again, where everybody's going to go, oh, yeah.
Yep.
But this was actually, I if I'm describing this correctly, it was more or less 3 separate screens side by side, and in the center screen you had the traffic cop, who is basically very obviously blue screened, where no. But even I think that was part of the joke of it, because clearly he's directing traffic, and you have the actual foot traffic going on the street, and then you have the flamingos coming from the other direction, and it would keep interspersing back and forth, and very amusing scene, and it was the showstopper for the kids pretty much when you were riding.
Right, and again here, the music transition from the woman with the maracas to the marching band, the Bahamian marching band doing it. From there, you went to Jamaica, and if you've ever been to Dunn's River Falls, you'll remember that scene as well. The people climbing up the falls.
The very interesting thing to remember about this is this is where they got totally silly, because again, you say there's all these people in their bathing suits climbing up the falls, but they actually looped the footage to make it appear like they were doing some type of line dance. So, and I've heard people describe this scene where essentially the actual footage, these people are holding on to each other, not because they're doing any kind of dance, because they're holding on to each other for dear life.
Fall. Yeah, if you've ever climbed the falls, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
But they're looping it, they're looping it to give it that comical kind of sensibility. So
right, and remember, like I said, you're not in these scenes for very long. I mean, relatively speaking, these are very short cut scenes, so you're kind of booking through, even though your vehicle is moving at a very slow rate of speed. And in the next scene, Jeff, we go back, we see the seagulls again, and these seagulls you're going to see over and over again, not only in this attraction, but in the next incarnation of it, in Trinidad. You see the seagulls kind of flying by in the in lagoon, kind of dusk.
Right.
From there, you go to exotic New Orleans, and during Mardi Gras of all time. So it was a very lively, very vibrant kind of thing. There was a Dixieland band, kind of shadowy figures playing, not shadowy figures, but shadow figures, right?
Well, and that's a good point, because throughout the attraction, and again, here, just to come bring out sort of the geek in me, this is where Claude Coates' design sensibilities just really shine. Is that you have the combination of actually, the movie footage where you're seeing people, but the use of silhouettes. I mean, they use the silhouettes to affect all the way back in some of the Mexico scenes as well, and it's creating this sense of you're actually seeing shadows or silhouettes of these people, giving it that sort of realism as opposed to just looking at the movie screens. And you always have a sense that you are looking at projection screens, but when they use the silhouettes, they're used to such great effect, because there you're getting a sense of, those could be there could be the Dixieland band right over there on the other side of that wall or that scene or whatever. So
right. And when you mentioned that, talking about things like depth and stuff like that, the scene in the Castillo del Moro Fort, it's that same kind of thing. The band is very much up close to you, but in the distance you get a very great sense of perspective, and people in the back by an archway and stuff like that. And it was just shot very, very well to really give you almost a 3D sense in that scene. And again, the projection at the time was very, very simple. I mean, there was nothing really much to it. But the fireworks that culminate this scene lead to, okay, this really is my favorite part of the attraction. And again, another one of the things I think, Jeff, like you said, people are going to say, well, yes, I remember this, was the speed room.
And the speed room becomes very, very significant again, to where it eventually leads to in other Disney attractions. But here again, this is where we talked about all the projectors that were being used. There were primarily 16 millimeter movie projectors used on almost all the film sequences. But here you had a 70 millimeter film projector working the speed room. And everybody knows kind of the speed room. You're kind of in a tunnel, and you're going through this kind of tunnel effect. And basically, this is basically setting the precedent for so much. It's setting the precedent for your Star Tours simulator attractions. It's actually being recycled and reused later in Epcot attractions, and specifically in World of Motion. But that's what, again, I sort of alluded to when we started talking about this. People go, come on, guys, it was like Eastern Airlines' little commercial attraction. It wasn't that big a deal. It was a big deal. Yeah. It laid the groundwork for so much design and technology and Imagineering type of leaps forward, that it's just the groundwork was here. And even though it's a very basic attraction and more or less you'd probably call it a D ticket or a C ticket, it gave us so much. I mean, is that am I being too geeky here? Or
No, not at all. Because think about it. Some of the things that you saw were, like you being a first-person perspective of water skiing or riding down this speed train in a forest or a dune buggy in a desert. And what they did was they actually tilted your ride vehicle backward just a little bit.
Right.
And they blew fans in your face to kind of make you feel as though as you're moving. And am I the only guy who's thinking Soarin'? A very, very basic version of Soarin'.
Yeah. That's it. There's just so much design sensibilities in all this. And it's very simple. I mean, a couple other examples, not to go too off our track here because we're still on the ride, no pun intended. But you see these elements, these design elements will pop up, and they'll only pop up for a second or two in various attractions, but just the sense of the filmed backgrounds, the projected movie onto a static thing. You have the Roman chariot in the Roman scene in the Rome sequence of Spaceship Earth. You have in the land where you go through the one segment where you have all the very large screens there in place going through different kind of vignettes or pictures. They're not direct connections, but this is, again, coming back to not so much technology, although that is certainly important, but the design sensibilities, again, that just kind of this really established so much groundwork for what came later.
Yeah, and they continue the effect a little bit more in the next scene, which is kind of just like the mirror room, and the walls, instead of covered with screens, are covered in mirrors. And they're showing all these reflected scenes of things like the mountains and the deserts, stuff that you just came from the speed room right before it. And as you kind of start flying back to to your destination in the descent scene, you see those same seagulls again, this time with the white projections on a blue sky.
And you come in for your landing.
And the thing I remember about this was now you hear your overhead announcer telling you do have wings. You can fly.
And the song changes.
You've always had wings. We'll be your wings. Eastern Airlines.
And
but it was that so much Captain Kirky way he said it.
Yeah.
You do have wings. You can. You always have. You can fly your Eastern. We'll be your wings.
And guess what they had waiting for you? They had a travel desk with Eastern Airline representatives ready to book your flight right there at the end of the attraction.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You have real Eastern employees, not Disney cast members who are, putting you in touch. You have real Eastern employees at this unload area, giving little kids their pilot wings while mom and dad go and say, hey, how can I go to Dunn's River Falls? And right then and there, you could book your vacation.
And again, what does this foreshadow? Every post-show that emerges at Epcot Center. And granted, there's roots. It wasn't necessarily the first. Things were like this were rooted in a lot of sponsorships that went into Disneyland, and things like the World's Fair, the 64 World's Fair, things like that. But still, it just so much of what came after the American Express travel desk.
Right, that's what I was going to say exactly.
Right there.
So, and unfortunately, Jeff, if you had wings, did not last as long as we hoped.
Took flight, didn't it? It took flight, Lou.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, wait a minute. That was wrong one. We jumped ahead too far.
Eastern, unfortunately, suffered some severe financial problems, and when it came time to renew their contract, they just couldn't financially justify it. And so on June 1st, 1987, the attraction closed when the sponsorship ran out. And unlike Epcot's 25th anniversary or Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, there was no public outcry. There was no anything. And they really didn't have very much time to do anything because 4 days later, the ride opened up again.
And it now, if you could fly, but it was just basically all it did was essentially it changed the song. Or did the song get changed completely?
The song changed, right. Right. Any references to the airline were gone, and the song lyrics were changed.
And the interesting thing is that, when you mention, about Eastern Airlines having their problems and everything, the one thing that's notable, though, is 15 years was a long sponsorship.
Yeah.
in the realm of, Disney-sponsored theme park attractions, that was very, very long. And when you compare it to, I think, typically the Epcot sponsorships were only ever 10 years. when they started those out in 1982. So it was a pretty long tenure.
Well, remember too, they're also committing, $10 million at the time, which was, a ton of money. And for this great relationship they were going to have, where they were really going to be the official airline of Walt Disney World. But we talked about the Seagulls, and in this 4-day span, they changed the song. They removed all references to Eastern. The plane that was on the exterior of the globe is gone, and now the logo outside has changed from that sort of Eastern triangular thing to seagulls. We're back to the seagulls again because of how prominent they were in the attraction. So that closed in January of '89. So it really didn't even stay open for more than 2 years, because Disney now is moving on. Delta is now going to be the official airline and sponsor. So they need to kind of redo the attraction. And this is when it comes Delta Dream Flight. And one thing I noticed, which was interesting, like you said, Jeff, the track has not changed. The ride system has not changed. When they installed If You Had Wings, it took them 3 months. When they installed Dream Flight, it took them 5 months to build, on top of an already existing attraction, which just seemed somewhat odd. But again, there were some pretty wholesale changes throughout the attraction from the queue on.
Tomorrowland is interesting. And here we go. I'll go off track just slightly again. But Tomorrowland is truly the greenest land of Epcot because it's all about recycling. All the
I was wondering where you were going with the green thing.
I had a point. All of the attractions in Tomorrowland are Imagineering recycles. They take the same basic, in this case, track. In the case of Timekeeper, they use the same established 360 projection theater. Alien Encounter, Stitch's Great Escape is still essentially using the same theater type environments that were originated with Flight to the Moon and Mission to Mars. And here again, we are still looking at these, aside from Monsters Laugh Floor, basically finally kind of rearranging things a little bit in the theater there. You're still using your same ride mechanisms that, were 35 years old.
Right. The one thing I remember about the queue, and we talked about the attraction and the building's relevance to other attractions, I remember something in the queue for Dream Flight that reminds me of the old ImageWorks, because there was this neon blue tunnel that you had to walk through in order to get to the Omnimover system. And that reminded me of the ImageWorks, the sensor tunnel.
Because it was... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It was mirrors. There was like mirrors, weird neon kind of thing, and it's where the ceilings dropped. And I think that's kind of where you have more or less the Buzz Lightyear type, queue area now. That's more or less more recycled from Dream Flight because it's very enclosed, very not quite claustrophobic, but a very, very dramatic change from what was there originally with If You Had Wings.
And like Journey into Imagination closing, reopening as pretty much the same attraction almost when it's Journey into Your Imagination, and being so disappointed with it. I remember vividly riding this and going, what did they do? I love this attraction. And now, instead of talking and going to these exotic destinations, where, they say, and Imagine was quoted as saying that they were really trying to capture the great areas, the eras of aviation. And they did not do that all that well. I remember there were certain scenes that stuck out. There was a very, very nice Japanese tea garden and things like that. I remember the giant plane, the giant nose of the plane that they had in there, and the Barnstormer scene, as well as the new music, and really not liking that version of an attraction that I enjoyed so much.
And here I have to disagree. Sorry.
Here's a first time for everything. So,
I can only follow your lead so long, but I got to strike out and be a little independent here. I really Dream Flight I loved. I really enjoyed Dream Flight. I think at the time I did not have as much sentimental attachment to If You Had Wings, because really, when I was younger, and my experiences, were very memorable of If You Had Wings, but I didn't do it all that often because I had only traveled probably less than, a half a dozen times to Disney World before I was, in my early 20s when I went and Dream Flight opened up. And I did not have anything to sort of hold against it, or I guess what I'm saying is I wasn't really drawing comparisons, and I really enjoyed it. I loved sort of the sets and the use of forced perspective. I like the history of aviation theme because it wasn't quite so commercial. It wasn't just sort of an extended commercial for Delta. It was kind of, it had a central theme to it that sort of went beyond it. So I did like it. I really enjoyed it. I've seen where a lot of other folks do reflect kind of what you're saying, and I have to say I'm not quite on board.
Listen, you're heartless, and that's fine. I'm good with that. We'll just move forward. No big deal. The music changes well, and if you want to break out into once you've taken your dream flight, feel free. But yeah, the song obviously changed to Dream Flight, which was pretty good too. I like the song as well. But we mentioned earlier about how the Wedway People Mover had gone. The track and the area was built above it before it even opened. Once it did open, like it is today, where you can look into Buzz Lightyear, you were actually able to look into the If You Had Wings attraction. You were able to see the Caribbean port and different things like that. When Dreamflight opened, it was the same thing. You could now look down on the Barnstormer scene, but they also closed off a couple of the windows. And now, in that same area, as you're going through, right before you get to the windows that let you look into the Buzz Lightyear scene where you see the giant kind of rock'em sock'em robot guy, there's the woman getting her hair all done up.
Right. In 20 different directions, yeah.
Right. That was actually a window that was open when If You Had Wings was there. And then once Dreamflight came in, they closed that first series of windows up.
Yeah, and actually that's what I just mentioned about, like I said, I really like the use of forced perspective in those scenes. That kind of gave the whole People Mover TTA a rough time, because basically it ruined the forced perspective. You were looking at it from an angle that you weren't supposed to look at it, so it kind of did run counter to that. So I will give you a critical kind of comment there, if that helps.
Okay, Mr. Dreamflight. And you must have been devastated when it closed in June of '96 and became Take Flight.
I was.
It's Dreamflight Light. Right. And just like If You Could Fly, same attraction, no logos, no song. It's now Take Flight, and the song changed just a little bit from what it was when it was Dreamflight. And then
I just, God, I'm gonna be Mr. Dreamflight now. Thank you.
Oh, we knew we'd find a name for you sooner or later. Anyway, on October,
you can say on the air, right?
Family-friendly podcast. Anyway, October 7th, 1998, we finally get Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin, which, honestly, Jeff, initially, I wasn't thrilled about. I just didn't get the fit from what it was before to what that was. The ride has definitely grown on me, and it's something I really enjoy now, and I know a lot of people like it because it is one of those very interactive things that a family can do together, and you've got a score to try and reach. So I've definitely come around and like Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, the interesting thing is this, again, I've heard so much criticism of Buzz Lightyear not fitting in Tomorrowland, and I guess there is a bit of a disconnect to that whole the retro future theme, but in a way, Buzz is kind of tied into that sort of retro future theming. But I just always thought it was kind of ironic that everybody was very critical of that. Yet, again, if you go back to Dreamflight and If You Had Wings, they had absolutely nothing to do with Tomorrowland.
Right. And kind of wrapping the whole segment up, Jeff, that's my first point, is Tomorrowland was never about tomorrow. You had If You Had Wings. The Circle Vision films were never about anything futuristic. Any of the films that really played in there, other than maybe Timekeeper, were nothing about the future. Flight to the Moon was about something that had happened in the past. Forget that. Go backwards. The Grand Prix Raceway, and the Skyway, there was nothing futuristic. There was nothing forward-thinking about it. So Tomorrowland was almost, for lack of a better word, a misnomer other than just the theming of it. And I think that's what we have to kind of keep in perspective. Just the theming of the land was futuristic, but the attractions therein weren't necessarily that way from day one. Maybe you could argue that the People Mover was, because it was meant to be, a future real mode of transportation for people. But other than that, that's really about it. You're not going to tell me the Astro Orbiter, other than having rocket ships instead of flying carpets or elephants or anything else, was a futuristic attraction.
And again, bringing it all the way back to If You Had Wings, we, again, being the geeks that we are, there is so much significance, and we were alluding to all the places where these concepts, these design concepts, and even the technology evolved. I mean, so much of Future World circa 1982 was rooted in so much of the design philosophy that was found in If You Had Wings, Horizons, World of Motion. World of Motion is literally sort of an evolution of sorts of If You Had Wings. Granted, If You Had Wings was focused strictly on, exotic locations and traveling by air. If you look at the queue area, the loading, and just then the progression of sequences, it's just sort of like World of Motion is an expansion of that same kind of design philosophy, albeit thrown in all the audio animatronics. It's sort of that expansion. And significantly, it had the speed ramps. There was actually 2 speed tunnels, in World of Motion that were just sort of evolutions of that one that was in. And again, to give everybody, that speed tunnel is still in Buzz Lightyear.
Right. Well, even a more direct connection to World of Motion was that was the first Omnimover ride that they created after If You Had Wings. I mean, there was no other Omnimover system that was done after If You Had Wings for really almost a decade. Actually more than a decade. So, but why was the ride so appealing? Why are we talking about it for again almost an hour? Its brilliance was in its simplicity, like you said. It was fun. It was funny. It was just very simply an entertaining ride. I think that's why kids and adults liked it. It had a great catchy song, which I think is the hallmark of all these classic Walt Disney World attractions. And it had these concepts that we alluded to that Disney was able to use again and again. These core concepts that worked in World of Motion, in El Rio, that ended up becoming things like Soarin'. And it was very unique. It was a very unique ride in all of Walt Disney World.
And again, as you mentioned, you can still get that kind of taste of it by riding Grand Fiesta Tour, because essentially that same type of screen projection system is what is throughout that, even now with the 3 Caballeros plussing upgrade to it. But yeah, if you really want to get a sense of it, kind of just pretend you're on an Omnimover instead of a boat, and that'll give you an idea of the experience you would have had on If You Had Wings.
And next time you go on Buzz Lightyear, try and not pay attention to what you're doing, but see if you could remember scene by scene what was where you are. So where were you going into the globe? Where were you going through the speed tunnel? Where were you in some of these different scenes? Now that we've kind of given you a scene by scene thing, and you can almost get a sense sometimes. It'll almost kind of jar your memory as you go through of If You Had Wings, because it's exactly the same. So there are some, if you're an If You Had Wings fan, or this did kind of jog your memory, or if you want to see more, there are some great online resources that I highly recommend that you should check out. One of which is Widen Your World, and it has a very convoluted URL, so I'll put that in the show notes. Really the definitive resource for photos and information. It's by someone by the name of Mike Lee, who clearly loved the attraction. Rather than me trying to reproduce the photos in our show notes, I will link to his site. I highly recommend you go in there. Also, we've mentioned Martin before. He's from the UK. He does some amazing videos. He has done a great sort of ultimate tribute to If You Had Wings and Dreamflight that have full ride-throughs as well. Also, I've mentioned them on the show before, the Extinct Attractions Club. I love the DVDs that they put out. They have If You Had Wings that has If You Had Wings, it's got Dreamflight, it's got a great history of not only the attraction but of Tomorrowland, and really gives you some unique perspectives as well. I'll put links to all those things up in the show notes. And Jeff, as always, this is always a lot of fun kind of going back on these Wayback Machines.
Yeah, this was a blast. I really enjoyed it, and this one was in particular a lot of fun and brought back a lot of good memories.
All right, Dreamflight, thanks very much, buddy.
Thanks, Luke.
Do all these things. You can widen your world, for you have wings. For you have wings, have wings, have wings. For you have wings, have wings, have wings, have wings, have wings.
Hello, WDW radio listeners. This is Jonathan Dichter, co-host of the All About the Mouse Disney podcast and owner of voiceofmousetunes.blogspot.com. And I'm back this week with another in the series of Eric Hollister and Lou Mongello's Marathon Challenges. This week, the Voices Behind the Magic Challenge. Similar to our last challenge, the Voices Behind the Movies, I will give you 10 audio clips from attractions and rides throughout Walt Disney World. Your job? Identify the attraction and the voice artist. Email your answers to marathon@wdwradio.com and you could be the next winner in the Marathon Challenge. Good luck. Here they come.
In thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds, the Main Street Electrical Parade.
We anchor now, you swabbies. What be I offered for this winsome wench? Stout-hearted and corn-fed.
It'd be $1 by the pound.
Shift your cargo, dearie.
Hey, Henry, what's holding you up? Let's get on with the show. We can't hang around here all day.
Science? We'll need electron beams and crystal prisms, gyroscopes and magnetism.
Oh, my siestas are getting shorter and shorter. Oh, look at all the people. And welcome to Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Hey, Michael, mi amigo, pay attention, it's Joe time.
Hey, sorry folks, I'm sure to do better next time. It was my first flight and I'm still getting used to my programming. Hey! Hey!
No privacy at all around this place.
A new film process which we're about to demonstrate to you. Now, working the projector is an old friend of ours, the Swedish Chef. Chef, everything okay?
When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, 'cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Well, all right, folks. Eric Hollister from geomouse.com, and we want to thank Jonathan Dichter from the All About the Mouse podcast for his help in challenge number 8 in the Lou Mongello WDW Half Marathon Challenge Series. Again, as he said, please submit all of your entries to marathon@wdwradio.com, and you must name the voice, which is the actual person behind the attraction, as well as the attraction itself. And we will pull all those correct answers together and draw for a winner. The winners will receive, again, volumes 1 and 2 of the Walt Disney World Trivia books signed by Lou Mongello, a DisneyWorldTrivia.com t-shirt, a DisneyWorldTrivia.com pen and lanyard. Also this week we're going to throw in both The Jungle Book and Peter Pan on DVD, Disney's last 2 animated releases. Also, the winner will be able to get a certificate of dedication, so don't forget to name your mile marker for mile marker number 8, which we will also post on geomouse.com. You will also be entered into the grand prize drawing, and everyone will want to stay tuned for November 3rd's WDW Radio podcast, where Lou and I will announce what the grand prize will be. And as always, geomouse.com will donate $100 in the WDW Dream Team project. So, again, folks, good luck with this week's challenge. We're going to send it back to Lou. Good luck, everyone.
Rest in peace, the haunting's free. So hurry back, we would like your company.
As part of my continuing efforts to not only bring you helpful vacation planning tips and insights into getting the most out of your Walt Disney World vacation, I'm also always looking for ways to help you save money and really get the most bang for your buck when you visit Walt Disney World. So recently, when Disney announced their ticket price increase, I started wondering if there was another way to somehow save money on buying tickets. And while there's sometimes discounts for specific groups or organizations, not everybody can qualify for those discounted and specialized ticket prices. So what I found out is that there are alternatives to buying tickets either directly from Disney or as part of a package. And while doing my research, I found out that not all of these sources are the same. But what I did find was that there are other authorized and official Disney sources to purchase tickets from. And after looking into and personally trying out a number of these sources, I came across one whose ticket prices were less than I found elsewhere, but more importantly, they were a company with a long reputation and exceptional service. So I thought a great way to talk more about some of these discounted tickets and hopefully answer some of your frequently asked questions, I wanted to bring on someone who could help me explain how purchasing discount tickets works. So I want to introduce you to Eric Davis. He is from OrlandoFunTickets.com, and welcome him to the show.
Hello, Lou. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm looking forward to this. And, I think, Eric, before I even get rolling with this, I have to admit that when I began my research into looking into discount tickets for Walt Disney World, I was very, very skeptical because there wasn't only this fear about not buying tickets directly from Disney, but, you hear and you read horror stories from people who may have been burned online or bought tickets on eBay that weren't quote-unquote real tickets or didn't have the number of days they expected. So my assumption is chances are there's other listeners that probably fear the same as I do. And, when you see somebody with a website too, you don't know if they're operating out of their, basement or some sort of roadside stand in the middle of Alligator Alley somewhere. And that alone, I think, makes people sometimes hesitant from buying online. A trip to Walt Disney World for so many people is the highlight of their year or highlight of 5 years. They save up for it, and it's so important to them. So I really want to address some of those concerns and demonstrate how and maybe why what you guys do is different, and maybe you can help us kind of allay some of those fears.
Oh, certainly. Definitely ticket selling, history as far as non-Disney ticket sales has really had kind of a controversial history here in the Central Florida area. You do have a lot of those unfortunate and sad horror stories, and then with the invention of the internet, one of the blessings and the curses of it is that a business can appear as large and basically as small as it really wants to. And so, as far as a consumer going online, sometimes there is difficulty really kind of weeding out the real businesses and sometimes, the less than honest businesses. And, one thing that, we at Orlando Fun Tickets, we're really striving to do is really kind of basically, bring ticket selling and bring, basically the third-party relationship to the whole next level. We really want to, put people at ease and let them know that, their hard-earned money is safe with us, and that, we respect the fact that, that they've worked a lot for these tickets, and B, that, we also treasure and share the Disney magic with them. And, one thing that people can definitely, rest assured that we are, a member of the Better Business Bureau here in Central Florida. And, and like I said, we want to basically kind of erase all the bad memories and all the bad things that happened, and, to other people. And now that we're here in town, and, we've really been showing that we have a strong track record for providing great tickets and great customer service, and we get a lot of great repeat business because of that.
And Eric, how long have you guys been in business, selling Disney tickets and this kind of thing?
Well, we've actually been selling since 2000 when we've been selling theme park tickets through different business segments, and Orlando Fun Tickets has been in operation for over 2 years now.
Okay. Now, one of the things I had mentioned when I was talking about some of the fears was people selling, having a stack of tickets and selling it out of their basements and coming across like they're a big company. But one of the things I did when I first started looking into this was going around and trying to see if I could find and maybe visit some of these ticket centers. You guys are actually located right near the crossroads.
That's correct. We have a premium location here that's right about a mile from downtown Disney. We have a beautiful ticket center where you can come in. It's a nice little lobby setting. We have a beautiful plasma screen TV with some Disney promotional videos running. So, the minute you walk in the door, you get pumped, you get excited. You're greeted by one of our really friendly customer service stars or customer service representatives. And, really, we try to kick off your vacation with the right step, right from the get-go. And, a lot of our customer service representatives, used to work for Disney. And so the one thing is, we're all very excited to help you start your vacation. Right. And that's kind of a really nice thing about coming into our center here.
Right, and that's one of the things I saw was you kind of got that feel from people, and maybe it's the Disney cast member training that you got, because you were a cast member too, right?
Correct. I actually was part of the Walt Disney World College program. Very proud of that. And I also actually did a management internship at the Boardwalk Resort, and also very proud of that too. I really loved working for Disney, and I was lucky enough to find a company that basically has the same vision and same excitement level that Disney has, and where all day all I get to do is I get to help people get ready for their vacations. I get to advise them on obviously on what ticket packages they should get, and there's nothing more fun than that to me, because I treasure the parks and I treasure my experiences and my memories, and it's just really exciting to be able to help other people get ready to make their own memories and explore all on their own.
Exactly. And working, a couple of miles away from the gates at Disney World is not all that bad, considering I'm up in New Jersey.
No.
So, but
it's surreal sometimes coming out of work, late at night, and you can hear the fireworks going off at Epcot, and it's illuminations going on, or you hear wishes happening, and so it's kind of surreal working like that.
All right, you don't need to rub it in. That's okay. But all right, tell us. The whole concept of buying discount tickets almost doesn't make sense to somebody that doesn't understand how you and other ticket vendors are able to get tickets for less than what Disney sells. And we'll talk specifically about what the numbers are, what the savings really could be. But kind of how do you sell Disney tickets, and what kind of tickets are they? I mean, are they quote unquote real Disney tickets? Are they, promotional things? You have to sit through a timeshare? What's the catch?
Well, certainly, that's a question I get a lot every day in my dealings with people all the time. Is what's the catch? And really, it's kind of cool. Is there's really no catch at all. Actually, funny enough, what it is we actually have a very special relationship with Disney. It's kind of funny. Disney World is Disney World. It's the top tourist destination in the entire world, and because of that, Disney, they don't have to discount their tickets. But the thing is we have a very special relationship with Disney. And what happens is we buy just massive quantities of tickets, and we're able to basically, through bulk savings, be able to pass on the savings to our guests and to our customers. And because of that, the sheer basically economics of numbers, we're able to really make a business out of it, and it's basically a really great opportunity for us, and it's a great opportunity for our customers because. They get the exact same ticket they would buy at Disney, Magic Your Way ticket, from basically a 3-day all the way up to a 10-day, for less than what you pay at the gate. And not to mention, then you don't even have to wait at the gate to purchase your ticket. There's nothing better than just, going to Epcot, walking right to the turnstiles and walking right in the park. Why waste 45 minutes, an hour of your day waiting to buy tickets at the gate when you can just walk right in?
All right, we'll talk, I guess, now about maybe the process, of actually purchasing the tickets and delivery of tickets, because that's another thing too. If I'm buying online, I'm not getting anything in return other than a piece of paper that says that I can print out that says yes, your tickets are on the way. If somebody they go to the website and they purchase online, what kind of ways do they get the tickets? Are they shipped to them? Do they pick them up? Are they delivered to the hotel?
Well, first we have 3 ways that you can order your tickets from us. You can first order online, which is through our website, OrlandoFunTickets.com, or you can call in on the phone and talk to one of our very friendly and very awesome customer service representatives, or you can actually physically come into our store and purchase the tickets. Now, as far as when you make the order, you have 3 options on how you want to receive your tickets. You can either have them shipped to you via UPS, which it is then insured and guaranteed that you'll receive them one way or another. You can either have them delivered to your hotel for a fee, or you can actually come into our office and just pick them up, basically like a will call type of thing. Like I said, we're only 1 mile from downtown Disney, so it's not too terribly far to go and pick up your tickets.
And when you talk about, shipping tickets, what are you looking as far as shipping costs and then time frame? How far in advance of my trip would I need to order them to make sure that I get them?
Well, shipping can be very fast and very slow, as we all know. And whenever I've placed orders for people over the phone, I'm always extremely cautious because, the last thing I want is for, I know my mom personally, if it came to the day that we were leaving on the flight and she didn't have her tickets, she'd be running around frantic. She'd be, on the verge of of crying and whatnot. So my one thing is I always want to make sure people are properly prepared for, the waiting time basically for this shipping window. And whenever you order tickets, there's always a 24 to 48 hour time frame for the order to be processed and shipped out. So if you order UPS ground, the maximum amount of time it would ever take is 9 business days. The likelihood it'll arrive a lot sooner than that, but like I said, I'm going to make sure, the maximum window is satisfied, not the minimum window. We also ship 2-day UPS, which basically takes, the maximum amount of time you're looking at is 4 business days for that to arrive. And in other circumstances, we can ship next day, but obviously if you ship next day, you kind of lose some of the benefits of the discount. As far as, you can do pickup, which you can order same day and come into our office same day and pick them up. Or with hotel delivery, we just need 24 to 48 hours to process and we can have them delivered straight to your hotel.
All right, I'm going to give you a scenario that, I could imagine happening to me. I order my tickets a week, 2 weeks in advance. It's the morning I'm leaving. No tickets in the mailbox. I've got to go, to Newark Airport 5 hours early so I can get through security. Now I'm getting on the plane and I don't have my tickets. Am I out of luck because they'll be sitting in my mailbox later on that day or tomorrow? Or what happens now? You shipped them out, but I don't have them, and in 2 hours I'm going to be in Orlando.
Well, this is where our special relationship with Disney kind of comes into play. And, our quick thinking and also our great customer service comes into play. What happens is that at the bottom of every Disney ticket, there's a special ticket number. And before we ship out any ticket, we record what ticket numbers we sent to what people. So, if you bought 5 Magic Your Way tickets, we'd have basically a copy of the ticket numbers for those 5 tickets here in our office. All you do is you call us up and, in a nice or somewhat hysterical manner, depending on the person, you let us know that your tickets unfortunately haven't arrived. And of course, we're very sorry, but it's not the end of the world at all, luckily. What we can do then is we provide you with the ticket numbers, and you're then able to go to any of the guest relation windows at Walt Disney World, and they're able to then reprint those tickets for you. So when you get home, you'll have those tickets there, waiting for you, but they can just be nice little souvenirs because they won't be any good at that point. But you'll be able to go straight into the park that day, after getting your tickets reprinted. So it's really actually very nice, and, luckily Disney has their system down pat like that, and so we're able to accommodate, scenarios like this.
So there's really nothing, either physically with the ticket or what is on the ticket itself that differs, quote unquote, your tickets from a ticket that I would get at the Magic Kingdom guest relations office.
Absolutely not. Our tickets, they're all the Disney ticket media. They have all the nice little legal disclaimers on the back that Disney puts on them. They have the magnetic strip along with, the characters on the front. And, like I said, we're an authorized Disney ticket reseller. And one thing is, we sell over 700,000 admissions to Disney World and Central Florida attractions. Because of that, we are used to anything really happening. And luckily, we can accommodate most any scenario or situation.
So, say, for example, I buy a, base Magic Your Way 2-day ticket from you, and we get there and say, you know what, we hit the lottery, we're going to stay a couple extra weeks. I want to go and make this a, park hopper, water park fun. I want to upgrade it. I can take the ticket, do whatever I would do as if I had bought the ticket directly from Disney?
Exactly. That's actually kind of the really awesome thing is that you can modify these tickets directly through Disney. You take them to any of the guest relations or any of the ticket windows, and you can, let's say you bought, a 10-day ticket from us for a great price, and you decide, well, I'm not actually going to use all these 10 days like I thought I was, and, you can actually go to guest relations at any time, and you can actually add that non-expiration feature to it, so you can save those days for the future.
Okay.
And so that's kind of really the very cool thing is that, you can still modify these tickets directly through Disney.
Okay. All right, so I'll admit my fears have, for the most part, been allayed, and I'm not, now I understand that they're real tickets. I can, I have no problem. If something goes wrong, you'll do what you got to do to make it right, so I'm not going to be left stranded after I buy the tickets. But now, let's talk about the reason why I should buy tickets. Let's talk about really the difference in price, and is it really worth, going to another vendor like yourself to buy tickets? What are we talking about as far as saving money? Can we do some comparisons, ticket for ticket, buying from you versus buying from Disney?
Certainly, I'm going to use our 3-point scale, really. I'm going to give you the gate price, and then the average competitor price, and then our price. I'm going to talk about, obviously, some of our benefits. And first, I'll start with something basic, the 4-day Magic Your Way Park Hopper. And at the gate with tax, you're looking at, that's going to be $257. And our average competitor price is $252, and our price is $246.88. Now, you're looking at a savings of about $10 there, which right there is, basically the price of parking, for one day for your family. And then also, you're looking at the headache of not having to wait in line, to buy tickets, and, that peace of mind that you already have, and everything's taken care of. And so, like I said, we have some great savings just there on that 4-day ticket. Not to mention, we actually give you a 5th day free, so that 4-day Magic Your Way Park Hopper ticket, they're already saving $10 on, ends up being a 5-day Magic Your Way Park hopping ticket.
Okay.
So it's actually even greater savings on top of that, which is actually very cool too.
And does it? I'm sorry. I was going to say. Does?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say. Do the discounts range? Do you have to get, a minimum kind of days, and do you need to have no expiration or park hop in order to see a savings? Or if I want to buy just a 7-day Magic Your Way plain old base ticket, are the same kind of discounts still available?
They are available. Some of them obviously have greater discounts than others, and that's kind of what browsing and looking at all of our different ticket options is kind of about. You mentioned the 7-day ticket, for instance. That's kind of the nice thing is you check out our website, and just kind of browse and, put things in the cart and see kind of basically how everything works out. But the really nice thing is that we actually are able to activate all of our own tickets. And because of that, we actually have basically an unlimited supply of Disney tickets. And whatever configuration basically you want, whether it be the 7-day base ticket or the 7-day, Water Park Fun and More, or the 7-day premium ticket, or even a 10-day premium ticket, we have that available at any time. And so we can provide basically any ticket you want at any time with basically, different various savings, depending on, obviously, on the ticket type.
All right. I had done a little kind of comparison shopping too when I first was going through this, and I had done I had taken out just a couple of numbers just for illustrative purposes. So, for example, a 7-day Magic Your Way base ticket, the gate price is $233.24. Your price is $214.04. So you're looking at a little bit over $19 of savings there. But you do something like a water park, a 4-day park hopper, Water Park Fun and More, no expiration, whole 9 yards. Disney charges $374.90. You're down to $332.14. Now you're looking at a savings of almost $43 per person. You start talking about families of 4 or 5. You're talking about a lot more than just saving money on parking. You're talking, that's a lot of churros right there.
Exactly, and that's some of the real benefits. Especially when you're buying for a family. Every dollar counts. And obviously, a lot of people would much rather spend, that money on churros or, a princess breakfast or, whatever really your heart and mind can imagine, when you're at Disney World. And that's what we basically empower you to do. And that's what, our partnership with Disney allows us to help you basically do.
All right. The other thing, too, and I think I take a lot of this for granted sometimes, is not everybody who goes to Disney World has been there, 100 times and knows what the Magic Your Way, Water Park Fun and More, no expiration, all these different options really means. So if somebody calls up, do the people who are at the call center, do they just take orders? Or if there's somebody says, look, I don't know what I need. This is what I'm doing. It's a family of 4. We're doing this. Will you guys kind of help them through the process a little bit, other than just trying to say, you need a 14-day, no expiration, park hopper, and try and, just get them the biggest ticket possible?
Well, no, it's quite comical sometimes, and it's something, we joke about it, obviously, in all good natured, but people call in and say, I want to go to Disney. The first question any one of our customer service reps is going to ask, like, well, great, that's awesome, we're excited for you, and, how many days are you looking at staying? And people say, well, I was thinking about going, we're going to be there 7 days. And, then the customer service representative would respond, well, awesome, 7 days, are you thinking about going to the parks all 7 of those days? Customer responds, yes, I think so. Then our customer service representative, well, which parks were you interested in visiting? And basically, through, obviously, asking questions and really kind of finding out basically what our customer and what our guest wants and needs, we help determine the appropriate ticket. None of our customer service representatives don't earn commission, and so they're not extremely pushy. They're very nice, and they're all very knowledgeable about the products that we sell and have, and we all just want to basically make sure that you have a great time. We all get very excited about Disney, and we all love Disney here, and so we're going to help you find basically the best ticket for you and your family, the ticket that's most appropriate.
All right. And I'll admit that when I went to go and visit the center a while back, that's the one kind of feeling that I got when I was there talking to people, was that the people you have working for you, they get it. I say either you get it or you don't, and they clearly get it. They're not just there selling tickets. They understand the product. Obviously, they understand Walt Disney World, and like I said, they're excited about it. And you kind of get that same Disney feeling. You're not talking to just somebody who's working at the drive-thru selling you a hamburger. They really care about what they're doing, and they enjoy it. So, believe it or not, that kind of level of customer service is something that I look for personally, and I know is important to a lot of people, especially, again, when you're talking about going to Disney World, because that's the kind of level of expectation that they have, right?
We really pride ourselves in that, in the fact that, a lot of us have worked at Disney, and actually some of our customer service representatives actually still work for Disney part-time, in various capacities, and because of that, we're all very vested in the product that we sell, and the last thing, the last thing I want is for people, to not have a great time. And so, we all want our guests and our customers obviously to have a terrific time, because we love the product, and also, we love our company, and we want to, make sure that people come back and visit us again.
Eric, the one thing I was thinking too was, do you guys just call Disney up and place an order and say, listen, we need X amount of tickets, and you buy them in bulk? Or do they really have a hand in maybe working with you or training your reps or anything else that's maybe more of an extended relationship other than just you buying tickets from Disney in bulk?
Well, we actually have a very intimate relationship with Disney, and this goes into kind of our special relationship, is, they actually send people over here to our facility all the time to train and to coach all our representatives. Whenever there's a ticket change or a price increase, they come over and make sure that, we're all brought up to date and up to speed on the new policies and procedures. They also provide us, with information and collateral to our representatives, so that we can make sure that, we're providing the absolute best customer service that we possibly can, and it all has to do with, the fact that we have direct contracts with Disney, and it's almost like, we're an extension of Disney. We are a third-party company, but, that we work very closely with their sales and their marketing department, and we also, the other day, they actually came into our office and they brought us Rice Krispie, Mickey Mouse ears, for instance, for Halloween, and so, we get to see them all the time. They're in and out of here, and we actually get to be privy to a lot of different events and whatnot that Disney throws, and it's a lot of fun, and so it's almost like still working for Disney, but not, in kind of a quieter atmosphere,
right? So,
where you don't have to hear the background music all day.
Because one of the things I was thinking was, is what you guys do. Does Disney look at you guys as don't talk about the discount people or competitors or things like that, or they kind of embrace what you guys do?
Well, Disney actually really embraces us. We have a great relationship with them. We're part of their 2008 sales and marketing plan, and one thing is we help them sell tickets, and we help them meet their goals. And so because of that, we are a really strong partner with them, and we have a really great relationship.
All right. And the other thing I should mention, too, that I didn't realize initially is that you can also get tickets for things like Cirque du Soleil and water parks, and dare I say, if you want to go off property. I know it hurts me to say that, but there are places like Universal Studios and SeaWorld, and Blue Man Group is actually a show I love, and I know Blue Man is over at Universal. You guys have all these things as well.
We do actually. We do pride ourselves in being able to provide tickets to these other Central Florida attractions too. But that is one of the great things, that we kind of are a one-stop shop for for your vacation here in Central Florida, whether it be all Disney, or whether it be, a mixture of some of the Disney and non-Disney products. We can provide access basically to all that, and also at terrific prices too, And like I said, if you ever have a question or a need, or just even want basic information, our customer service representatives are all very friendly and pretty much find the answer to any question you might have regarding the Central Florida attractions.
When I was talking about it, one thing that crossed my mind was, what about tickets to something like Pleasure Island? Say I don't want to get the water park fun and more option, but I just want a couple of nights at Pleasure Island. Do you guys have those as well?
Yeah, we do. We have Pleasure Island tickets all by themselves. Very popular with, obviously, the adult crowd for obvious reasons. But, Pleasure Island, it's a lot of fun, and it's a great standalone attraction. If you're coming down and you're either going to be just all on business, or you decide you're not going to visit the parks for whatever sad reason, we can provide you access, and also at a great price. Just to give you an idea, at the gate, Pleasure Island is $21.95, and our price is $16.85. And that gets you into all 8 clubs, everything from Motions to the Comedy Warehouse. And so, you have a great night of fun ahead of you, and also, have a little bit of extra money to spend on some drinks.
I was like, that $5 is an extra congaloosh right there. So.
Exactly.
Again, drinking it only for research purposes, not for anything else. But
precisely.
But Eric, if I think, like I said, I think you were able to answer a lot of my questions, and I tried to kind of ask questions I thought would be representative of what other people might be thinking. If people still have more questions, or if they want to find out more, what are the best ways to go about contacting you?
Well, I believe you have a link on your site directly to us in your show notes, I believe, and
yes,
also
I'll put
on
on
your
this week.
site. So if you don't have a pen with you, or you're jogging with your iPod right now, you can just go to the WDW Radio and click over to us, or you can come to OrlandoFunTickets.com directly, or you can give us a call at 866-225-4712. And any one of our friendly customer service representatives will be more than happy to answer any of your Disney-related or Central Florida-related questions. And just all you need to do is just also let us know that you heard about it on WDW Radio. We want to know that you guys are listening and you guys are out there, and and so that maybe we can come up with some great fun deals for your listeners here in the future.
All right, I forgot one more question that I wanted to ask you.
Certainly.
When we were talking about listeners and stuff like that, we have listeners, obviously, and a lot of visitors come from overseas. Are people who are overseas visitors, and maybe if they're not even staying on property, they're staying in a vacation home or a villa, something like that, are they able to get tickets through you as well, or is it domestic only?
Well, we do sell tickets to international travelers all the time. We definitely love our British tourist friends. They're always very, very polite on the phone. And but one thing is, we do not ship internationally, unfortunately. But how we can accommodate is you can either pick up a ticket here in our office, or if you're staying in a resort hotel that we deliver to, we can deliver to that hotel. But if you're staying in a vacation home, if you have that address to the vacation home, we can ship there if there will be enough time. But most likely, your best option would be to just pick it up in our center, and that's free. So you save even more money when you come and pick it up.
Great. All right, Eric Davis from OrlandoFunTickets.com. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for answering all my questions. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Lou, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future sometime, and definitely look forward to seeing you down here at Disney World for Mouse Fest.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, you take care, Lou.
You too. This week's show is running long, again, but I do want to answer a couple of your emails. Let's go quickly to the first one. It says, "Hi Lou, love the show, and know you talked about the Harmony Barbershop before, but I don't remember if you said anything about making appointments. My family and I are going to Walt Disney World during Mouse Fest and would like to get my 2-year-old son's haircut there. Do you need an appointment, and if so, how far out should I schedule? Thanks again for your great work and what you do for the show. And that comes from Tara Landis, who's Pluto Pal on the forums. Tara, you do not and cannot actually make reservations for the Harmony Barbershop. You can just walk up, though. Usually, there's not that long of a wait, especially maybe if you go first thing in the morning or later on in the day, maybe during one of the parades. You shouldn't have any problems getting in. Second email says, "Hey Lou, Christine P. here. My mom forwarded me your newsletter, which has wonderful information. My question is that we're headed from Disney from October 26th through November 2nd. We already purchased our tickets for Mickey's Halloween event for October 31st. My son's teacher told me that there's a little behind-the-scenes tour where a person over 9 can go for a good part of the day and see the inner workings of Disney. Is this true? And any information you could provide would be great. Christine, thank you for the email, and congratulations on being able to go on, obviously, the best of the Halloween days, which is exactly Halloween. As far as the tours, most tours behind the scenes are for guests over 16 years of age, but you can take the Family Magic Tour. And what I'll do is I'll put a link up in the show notes to the Disney website where you can find out more about it. It is a lot of fun. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people that have taken it with some of their younger kids. You also mentioned the newsletter. I'll mention it quickly here that you can go over to DisneyWorldTrivia.com and sign up for our free monthly newsletter that includes articles, news, rumors, trivia, vacation planning, and so much more. You'll find a link on the homepage, like I said, over at DisneyWorldTrivia.com. Next email says, "Hey Lou, this is Sean, who's Big Bro 501 from the forums and longtime listener of all the podcasts you've been involved in doing. I wanted to comment on Epcot show number 33 and how you and Jeff were talking about the kid station. Call me a grown-up kid, but I had a ball last year with the passport that you can buy before you enter World Showcase. I think it was around $10, and the kid stations at all the pavilions will stamp and sign your passport with a greeting. It has stamps with pictures of each pavilion, and it's one of the best souvenirs I've ever gotten from Disney, and it didn't cost a lot. I know that I'm not the only grown-up kid that would have fun with this. Cheap but fabulous souvenir. Keep up the great show, Sean." Sean, I agree with you 100%. I think that is a great, fun souvenir, and it gives you, even as an adult, a way to kind of go around and meet and interact with the cast members. It's a great way to start talking to people who are obviously from the countries that they're working at. So, great idea and great souvenir. Next email says, "Hey Lou, I'll be going to Disney World for the first time ever, but I found out I'll be going during Pop Warner Week. Is this going to affect my trip in any way, like crowds or lots of wild kids running loose? I'm so excited, as I've only been to Disneyland because we live in California. I'm also debating going to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Our trip is from December 5th through the 11th. Well, as far as your first question about going during Pop Warner Week, you're really only likely to see the effect in any sort of visible way in some of the All-Star and Pop Century resorts, because that's where most of the people stay for Pop Warner and the cheerleading events that are going place. You're not really going to find much of an impact at all on the crowds in the parks. And I have yet to see kids running around the parks like crazy or anything like that, so I wouldn't worry in that regard. However, you might find, especially if you stay at those resorts, a lot more activity and maybe some noise in and around the pool areas and the food courts, etc. As far as Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is concerned, I'm a big fan of the event, and you're actually going at a great time because, like I said, it is Mouse Fest. If you'd like to join us, the Mouse Fest people are going to be attending on Thursday, December 6th. We're going to meet up at the Magic Kingdom Rose Garden. You don't need to register or anything like that. If you want to attend, just come by and join us. It's a lot of fun, and again, I highly recommend going to the party if you can. Last question says, Lou, you previously mentioned in our show that about the Kiss Goodnight at the Magic Kingdom. Do any of the parks do something special at opening time? This is going to be my kids' third trip to Walt Disney World. I think they'd really enjoy an opening as much as the fireworks at the end of the night. And that comes from Jim in Williamstown, New Jersey. Jim, first, let's talk about the Kiss Goodnight over at the Magic Kingdom. After it's closed for the night, Main Street USA stays open for about a half hour to an hour before they really start kind of slowly encouraging people to get out of the park. But if you stay long enough, there is this music and light show that takes place on Cinderella Castle that's beautiful, and it's called giving the guests basically their kiss goodnight. As far as things that go on at the parks in opening time, yes, all the 4 parks have opening events. There is a kind of an opening ceremony every day. They also select it, like, for example, Jeff Pepper was selected at Epcot, a Family of the Day. So if you get there early and if you're chosen, all the characters come out. You get to ride in a test track car. They do similar things at the other parks as well. That's one of the reasons why, especially if you go with kids, try and get there early, try and get up front, really look excited about what's going on, and who knows, you might just be selected as the family of the day. So thank you very much for your emails. I know I have a lot more to get to, but please keep them coming. You can email me at lou@wdwradio.com. You can also call in your questions or comments or anything you want to do, say from the parks. If you call 206-202-4WDW, that's 206-202-4939. Thank you again for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. My thanks also to Jeff Pepper, Eric Hollister, Jonathan Dichter, and Eric Davis for their help with this week's show. And of course to you for listening. On our show notes page at WDWradio.com, you can also find more information and links about the topics that we covered, as well as links to previous episodes of the show. Don't forget that if you're planning your next trip to Walt Disney World or are coming down to join us for MouseFest, the Magic for Less Travel is our recommended travel provider. Their superior service and commitment to personal attention, as well as their special packages and daily discount checking service, afford you the best possible experience. To find out more or for a free no-obligation quote, visit our show notes page for a link over to the Magic for Less. On future shows, I have more vacation planning tips and advice, as well as more of the bests, hidden treasures, DSIs, special guests, and of course, I always have a few surprises in store, so be sure and stay tuned. As always, please keep emailing the show to lou@wdwradio.com, calling in your voicemails to 206-202-4WDW. You can also join us all week long at our fun and very friendly forums at DisneyWorldTrivia.com for discussions about the show and all things Disney. And of course, if you like the show, please help spread the word and let others know about it. Thank you again to my guests, and thanks to you for tuning in again this week. So until next week, I'll see ya.
Hi, Lou. This is Caleb from Columbus, Indiana, and here at the Orlando Airport. Just had a nice 5-day stay at Walt Disney World at the Beach Club, and just wanted to say thanks a lot for your insight into the American Adventure. This was my 11th trip, and I have to admit that this was the first time having seen that based on your suggestion. Just never ventured back there, and my wife and I both really enjoyed it, and definitely had a chance to see the Voices of Liberty thing as well, and that was really neat too. So anyway, appreciate it, and I love the show. Thanks. Bye.
Last year, the Window to the Magic podcast brought you an unprecedented event, a show unlike any heard before. Thrills, chills, and an adventure beyond your imagination made The Secrets of the Wooden Door an instant classic. Now, as the Halloween season approaches, one might expect this year's show to be twice as good. Well, you'd be dead wrong. Halloween Night 2007, the Window to the Magic podcast will bring you not one, not two, but 3 separate stories, each designed to get you into the spirit of the holiday. Prepare yourself to go on a spook hunt with the world-famous Ghostbusters. Then, learn all about the tragic and deadly past of the one and only Haunted Mansion. And finally, gather everyone close, because the last story is so intense, no one should listen to it by themselves. Ghosts, ghouls, and goblins, all coming your way this Halloween from the Window to the Magic. Lights out, everyone.